Welcome. Me and my toilet paper roll are back. Today is just more of a chit chat. Get ready with me. I talk a little bit about mental health. I talk a little bit about children, and I think that was really it. Before we jump in, I thought I would let you guys know that Auric is doing its first ever Black Friday sale. There's children screaming in the background. I don't know what to tell you. Jumping for joy. That's what they're doing in the background. It starts Thursday at 9 p.m. PST. And then it goes until Sunday. And then we also are doing Cyber Monday. I forgot to tell you what the discount is. The discount's gonna be 20% off site-wide, except for bundles, because bundles are already like discounted pricing. And then Cyber Monday, we're doing 10%, which is, it starts and ends Monday. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into the video today. I'm gonna be honest. This video, I don't know what this video is gonna be yet, okay? It hasn't fully formed in my mind, or even partially formed in my mind. Initially, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like a simple eyeshadow look, and maybe I'll talk like more about technique and stuff. And then I looked at the back of my shirt and I was like, or something else, a graphic liner based on the colors of the back of my shirt that no one else is gonna wear. This is what we're working with, okay? Hold on. So I grabbed some like blue different colors, and I grabbed some pink and some white. I think it's gonna be great. I actually feel like I have some mental health updates, not in a well, I guess it's kind of depressing. At some point, the people of YouTube are gonna be like, we've heard enough. Here's the thing, okay? I've been going to therapy for a hot minute. I'm gonna use this almost certainly expired Tarte Clay Pot Liner in Cobalt. I think it was limited edition to begin with. Hopefully it's still moist. What's my plan here? I don't know, I'm just gonna start doing things. So because I've been going to therapy for a hot second, I feel like I got to a place that I was really happy with in terms of like being able to discern when I was getting to a place where like maybe my depression wasn't doing so well. Because before I was in counseling and on medication and stuff, I kind of felt like I would basically, by the time I realized that I was like in a little bit of a depressive state, it was like too late. You know what I mean? Like it was like too late to like intervene in a way that was like effective, I guess. I just kind of had to like ride it out at that point. That was sort of my experience. So I had gotten to a point where I felt like I could like notice, okay, like I'm on a little bit of a downturn, and then I could do, you know, different things like, okay, maybe I need to be off my phone more, because I know that that for me is like something that can bring me down. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to be off my phone more. Maybe I need to be like getting out for walks or something. You know, whatever it may be. Maybe I need to go to counseling an extra time this week, something like that. And I could kind of like intervene before it got to a place where like I was having a hard time helping myself. But then I think what happened, this is my hypothesis, okay? I think that I got to a place where I was like, I am a genius. I know every feeling I could possibly feel. Never gonna catch me off guard, brain. And then about like probably 6 months ago, I was feeling really down and I didn't know like what exactly was going on. And then my counselor was like, do you think you're lonely? Because like my best friend was living in my house for 4 years and then she moved away 5 hours away. And I was like, yes, Annie, that could very well be. Okay, I was just using a little like Smith 205 brush, but I'm going to switch to, yeah, I'm gonna switch to my little winged liner brush from my Sigma collection. And anyways, I feel like continually over the past 6 months, I've had just like little moments where I'm like, I don't know what I'm feeling or like why I feel so bad, because this doesn't feel like just depression to me. It feels like something else. I don't know what it is. And it's a very odd feeling to be back in a place where I feel like, almost like I have like no control over my mental state, which like to an extent, I guess you don't ever, but like it felt more like I did, you know? Maybe I'll zoom you guys in a little bit so you can really see the nitty gritty of what's going on here. Oh yeah. Take a good look, skin commenters. Let's get it all out of our system. And then recently, I would say within the past like 3 weeks, I've been noticing that I've been like overeating. And I want to be clear that I don't mean that in a way where like I try to hit a specific calorie goal and I like went over that goal. I mean like I would eat until I was comfortably full and then continue eating until I was uncomfortably full and then continue eating beyond that. And like even though I was noticing it while I was doing it, I would be like, ooh, I'm overeating and I'm getting kind of like uncomfortably full. I would continue to do it. And I still feel like I talked about it in counseling a little bit, but I still feel like I'm doing that a little bit. I'm just left not feeling very good physically, which also doesn't always make you feel great mentally, but also, oh my God, have I been sleeping poorly. Our baby right now is in a little bit of a phase. Like normally what we would do is we would put them down at night. They would sleep for like maybe 2 to 3 hours kind of thing. And so we would have, like a couple hours to just do whatever. And then literally like the second I make the decision in my mind that I'm like I could be laying in bed this entire time while my baby's sleeping. But the second I decide that I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to bed now, my baby's like wide awake. So normally we would like bring the baby in and they would nurse, put them back to bed kind of thing, and then would usually wake up again around like 6 kind of thing, nurse again, go back to bed, whatever. And so that was kind of the rhythm that we were in for, I would say, a few months sort of thing. Like obviously there would be some nights in between there where they would be up, like they wouldn't go to bed early, or, they would be up more throughout the night or whatever. But lately, we'll put the baby down, they'll sleep for like, same thing, like still like about 2 hours usually. They get up to nurse, they will not go back to sleep in their bed. And at this point, like we're still not doing sleep training or anything like that. I don't really have any intentions to sleep train. It's just not like what I'm really like interested or like comfortable doing. But so now they don't want to go back to their bed. So they'll sleep in our bed, but like all night long, they'll wake up and go like this, more, like sign language for more, like pulling on my shirt, going like this, and then like standing over me, going like this. So it's like, obviously I can't get fucking back to sleep when you're doing this. And so they're just like nursing all night long. And so obviously like, it's more for comfort because it's not like they're at a point where they can't sleep through the night without nursing. And I just don't know. We've tried to kind of get out of this phase by like, putting them back to bed, like once they fall asleep in our bed and whatever. No days. I do feel like it's definitely impacting me, and I think that it is kind of crossing over with the whole like overeating thing and all of that. So just in general, I haven't been feeling fantastic, which is kind of a bummer. I think people grossly underestimate how much sleep or lack thereof can impact virtually everything in your life. And especially when it's consistent. Like it's not like, oh, I had a bad sleep last night and now I'm having a shitty day. It's like I had a bad sleep for the last 3 weeks. Okay, I'm using this KVD. I think this is also discontinued. These are like their Super Brow Longwear pomades in satellite blue. And I think I'm gonna take that like more through my crease. Doesn't smell like anything. But also on the topic of mental health, I'm having the time of my life because there's been 2 documentaries that came out that was talking more about mental health. Love it, love to see it, love to watch it, frankly. So the first one I watched was the Selena Gomez one. It's called, well, you probably know that. I don't think anybody else lives under a rock but me. It's called My Mind and Me, I think, which I was bitching about this in therapy. This is what I waste my therapy time on. I wasn't bitching. I think that, yes, I was. I think it's obviously like overall just a positive thing that more people and like people with larger platforms are talking about mental health more openly. I think for me, I felt like that documentary felt kind of like surface level in a way, sort of like, oh, I struggle with this, but then not really going too in depth about like, well, what does it look like struggling with that? Or like, how are you, aiding that? You know what I mean? So I think for me, I ended up leaving that one feeling like it was kind of surface level. And I wondered how effective the approach would be on like a general public kind of thing. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts if you have watched it. Because similarly to like, okay, when Michaela, the like TikTok extraordinaire. I don't actually think this was a recent video. I think this was a video from like a year or two ago. But anyways, regardless, a video of her circulated where she was saying basically like, I don't want to misquote, but something along the lines of like, it's 5 o'clock, I just finished work, which the context of that was that she had started work at, I believe 6, like she said she had gotten up at 6 or something. Because a lot of people I felt like were kind of almost like either like purposefully misunderstanding or like just not trying to find the context. So they were like, oh, so you work 9 to 5, cool. Same with everyone. But anyways, I believe she said that she had gotten up at 6 and she had finished at 5. And she was like, basically like, try being an influencer. Like if you think you can do it, if you think it's so easy, like try being an influencer, try it. And people were really agitated about it. I have so many feelings because I have stood by this for quite some time. Physically speaking, being an influencer, in my opinion, is not a particularly difficult job. Like, at least through my view, like I don't find posting to Instagram and, you know, Matthew, forever interrupting my videos with his fucking car. I'll just silently do my eyeliner while we wait. Probably for the best anyways, otherwise this is never gonna get done. But anyways, in my opinion, I don't find this job to be particularly taxing physically. Emotionally, very taxing. And I think that, you know, influencers are within their right to share that sometimes, you know? But the thing that I've noticed myself over time is that it's like, you have to kind of, to some extent, like, read the room, you know what I mean? Like, and know your audience, like know who you're talking to, because, you know, in Michaela's instance, like there was a lot of people that had shown like that sound overlaid videos of her like showing off like designer goods and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, if you can fairly reasonably presume that you're talking to an audience that is going to be made up mostly of people who make less money than you, work a job where they probably don't have a lot of say in what they're doing and when they start and when they finish and all those kinds of things, probably don't work from home, probably don't get to go to glamorous events and stuff like that, then will that messaging, like the way you're going about it, will that messaging land well with that audience? You have this audience of people that, you know, some of them will likely be looking at your life being like, I wish I could be doing that. Like, I wish I could be posting makeup videos all day long, you know? And I will say, like, I think TikTok's like a whole different ballgame because like, I do find TikTok to be an outrageous amount of work. If you're doing it properly, like to the extent that you would need to be doing it to get to someone like Michaela's level, it truly is like a full day affair. Hello, this is Editing Sam, also with a children's movie playing in the background. I just wanted to clarify that I'm not like judging Michaela for talking about this. I do think she's within her right to talk about it. More so I was trying to say, like, I think that there's a way that you can say anything that will resonate perhaps better depending on your audience. And the only reason I feel that way is because that's been my experience as well in the past when like I've complained about my job or things like that. I feel like there's certain ways that I can talk about it where people can understand where I'm coming from better than other ways I could explain it, if that makes sense. Okay, anyways, bye. So with the Selena thing, because there was a couple instances where she had shown like her basically getting fed up with doing interviews. I'm gonna mix. Okay, I have magenta and I have whiteout. These are the Super Brow things from KVD2. I'm gonna mix a little bit of these because this one's like quite dark. And I think I want it a little bit lighter. Have I been out of frame this whole time? Can you imagine? I find this job very emotionally taxing. But anyway, she was showing her essentially getting like kind of fed up with doing interviews. And my assumption was that they were kind of trying to be like, you know, showing the like raw and real and like it's not always pretty, you know, kind of thing. At least that was how I interpreted it. But to me, I was like, oh, is this gonna land well? I just don't know. Like, I would hope, not necessarily that I would hope, I mean, people can feel however they want to feel, but they would hope, I guess, that like, you know, people would be compassionate and be like, okay, I mean, I'll be able to understand it, but, you know, yeah, it looks shitty. It looks like it sucks. But as I was watching it, I kind of wondered, like, is the messaging going to get kind of lost because people are like, really? Like, you like blew up at this interviewer when she's basically just doing her job and you're on a media circuit and so is she. And so then I was just kind of wondering, like, is the messaging gonna get lost? Like, is the messaging of mental health issues can impact anybody, and, you know, like, you have to be vulnerable to an extent to be able to deal with them, and it's okay that it doesn't always look okay and look, you know, glamorized, if you will, because I think there has been, as we've talked more about mental health as like a society, I think there has been obviously some critique around whether or not it is to an extent getting glamorized to, you know, have depression or have anxiety or whatever, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Like, I don't think that a lot of people, I think that there's still an overwhelming amount of people that would be embarrassed to have a mental health diagnosis, like a mental health issue diagnosis, rather than people that are like, oh, cool, I have anxiety, how sexy. But anyways, that was something I was left curious about when I was watching that show. So I'd be really interested to hear, if you did end up watching it, what your thoughts were. But also, something that recently came out was Jonah Hill's documentary called Stutz, and he basically is talking with his therapist, Phil Stutz, about Phil's approach to therapy. In the beginning of the movie, Jonah Hill was kind of like, so I guess this is a spoiler alert, I don't know. Jonah Hill was kind of like, oh no, I'm not going to talk about that. Like, I'm not going to talk about my own life, basically. And I was like, really? I was kind of disappointed at first. Not because I'm like, air your dirty laundry, but more because I'm like, are you really going to talk about, you're going to do a documentary about your therapist and not talk about like the things you've talked about in therapy at all? Like, I'm just was kind of surprised. But they do end up getting into it eventually. I felt like it was really well done. I felt like it was really interesting. I thought that the therapist's tools were very easily grasped and also easily adapted to each person. At least that was like my kind of perception of it. Because a lot of his tools are more like visualization based. And I'm not big on visualization things, but I think that like the concept of what the visualization is about for me can be adapted to be like, okay, this is how I can do something physical about this rather than just picturing it in my mind and hoping that's therapeutic. That sounded kind of judgmental, but it wasn't. If visualizations work for you, that's great, frankly. Anyways, I did find it very interesting. One of the things that I found particularly interesting about it was that Jonah and the therapist say I love you to each other. And I thought that was interesting on two levels. First, because they're both men and like men should be able to express love and admiration and care and appreciation and all of those kinds of things without shame. But I also found it interesting because, like, for me with my counselor, I mean, I've been going to her for years now, you know? So I would say, if asked, that I do love my therapist. Like, I love her as a person. I love how much she's helped me. I love that she helps other people. I think she's a good person. Like, you know, I love her and I appreciate her and I value her and whatever. So I would say that I love her, but I would never verbalize that I love her to her because I would feel like that's like wildly inappropriate in a therapeutic setting. But then I'm kind of like, why? Like, besides the obvious implication of like, okay, if you were sleeping with your, or in love with your therapist, it's like, okay, so there would probably be some potential issues there. But like, why is it inappropriate for them to mutually disclose their love and care and admiration for one another? And I just thought that was very interesting and I really appreciated it, actually. Very wholesome, if you will. Anyways, if any of you ended up watching either of those, I'd be super interested to hear your thoughts on both of them. Overall, I really do just love that we're seeing more kind of larger conversations about mental health because it's important and I feel like it affects so many people and it's like we're still just scratching the surface of that, like, and people feeling comfortable to share about it, you know? And I also want to quickly say before I move on the Selena Gomez thing, I mean, I don't think she's gonna watch this personally and be offended, but you know, I think it's worth mentioning. At first, I really felt like, okay, I felt like she could have been more vulnerable or like more open about whatever it may be, you know what I mean? But then I was like, honestly though, maybe for her, because she's on such a different scale, you know what I mean? Maybe for her, like that was incredibly vulnerable and that was incredibly difficult to like talk about, and showing what she showed was already like, wow, this is so uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's something to be said for that as well, because just because like I jump on here and talk at length about all kinds of different shit, that I don't feel usually particularly uncomfortable doing that. Like that feels fine for me. So it's sort of like, who am I to judge someone who like maybe that was like incredibly difficult for them to open up to that extent. And then I'm like, wow, you could have really gone a little deeper, Selena. Also, okay, sorry, this is my last thing. Wow, is that woman beautiful? Like the whole time I was watching, I was like, this is frankly astounding. Like even instances where it was like, oh, she's in bed and her hair's up. I'm like, like her bone structure, everything about her, you know what I mean? She's just so, so, so beautiful. It's crazy. Actually, while I'm on my high horse lamenting about people not being vulnerable enough, there is something that I haven't been sharing about. Not that I have to, but in this moment, I'm getting the feeling that I'd like to. A lot of people have been asking whether or not we are planning on trying for another kid. I think I'm gonna put on my clouded lashes in full, like the full strip. Focus on this. I'm trying to show something. I think I'm gonna put those on. We have been trying for several months, no such luck. If you recall, when we went to start trying the first time, I had been off my birth control for like a week and we got pregnant like that. Like it was super easy, you know, no problem. And so at the time that happened, I was anticipating that it was going to take a long time to get pregnant the first time, because I have like known a lot of people that have struggled with fertility. I had seen a lot of people online struggling with fertility. So for me, I was just like, maybe it's just not, maybe it doesn't only take one time like they told me in high school. I was like, maybe it is just like, you know, it's probably gonna take a minute. So like, that's fine. And I had like totally come to terms with that before we had decided to start trying. And then it was so fast and so sudden that I was like, oh my God, okay. So when we were talking about it this time, I think I kind of had it in my mind that it would be that easy again. So it was just going to be as simple as like deciding when, and then it will be so. Okay, I feel like everyone's going to be like, you need to be stopped, but I would like to add one more liner color to this. And it's going to be yellow, and it's going to be this one. It's from Kat Von. It's from KVD. She's no longer with the company. She's passed on, not in a dead way, but just a business way. Daffodil. Okay, I'm using a little Smith 202 brush. So anyways, back to the pregnancy thing. I had also talked to my mom about, you know, like having more kids and stuff like that. And I was like, was it more difficult for you to get pregnant the second time? And she was like, no. She was like, all of them we basically like just had no problem. So I am very sad, to be honest. I think that part of me is of course worried that my cervical shit is having something sneaky to do with this, which I hope not, but you know, you never know. But it is definitely discouraging. That's what's going on. I feel like it was around March that we had started kind of talking about it, and trying to be more intentional about trying. There, this looks a little wonky, but nobody's gonna be that close to my face. So from afar, they're gonna be like, oh wow, cool. This is also suggesting that for some reason I'm gonna be out of my house, which I'm not. Okay, I do think I'm gonna do my clouded full lashes. Also, we launched lash glue. Yes, this is a very haphazard timing for launching the lash glue, but here's what happened, okay? We wanted to launch the glue alongside lashes. Obviously, we wanted to do this quick dry formula. So basically, like, you know, with traditional lash glues, like you would wait however many seconds, sometimes up to like 30 to let it get tacky kind of thing, put it on your eyes, whatever. From the time that I started using lashes, I felt like that was actually harder, because I think sometimes people hear quick dry and they're like, oh fuck, like, so I have to like work quick as hell. But like for me, when I started wearing lashes, I found it inconvenient that I had to wait so long, because sometimes I would wait too long and then it was like not tacky enough anymore and it wouldn't stick the same way, or it was like still really wet and then they kind of would like move around and like pop off the inner corner, and then I had to sit there and like hold it and try and get it, like, you know what I mean? And then sometimes like it would get like lash glue in my lashes because it was still really wet, so it was just like messy and moving around. So anyways, we want to do this quick dry formula, but basically we were originally using it with like a brush, like an actual like fiber brush. And what we found is that because it's a quick dry formula, it like built up on that brush so much quicker and it's splayed quicker. Where, you know, I mean, ultimately it's adhesive in like a tiny little bottle. Like you're going to get glue around the neck of the bottle. You're going to get glue on the applicator. It's just like bound to happen because every single time you take it out, it's exposed to air, so it dries to an extent and you put it back in the bottle again and again and again. So you're going to naturally get that buildup, but it just wasn't working with that brush. So then we were kind of exploring different options for the applicator. So it just wasn't ready in time for the lashes, and we didn't want to like stall the lashes any longer. So we were just like, oh my God, let's just freaking launch the lashes and then we'll randomly launch the glue and everyone will be like, what are you doing? So anyways, now the applicator, this is an undecoed bottle, so don't really look at it too closely. But anyways, the applicator now is like, you can't really see it, but it's like a cotton, I'm trying to show something. It's like this cotton tip. Yeah. But anyways, because it's a quick dry formula, we also launched these cutie little tweezers that have our name on it. But because it's a quick dry formula, you can basically put the glue on and put it right on your eye. So I would recommend, like, if you normally put glue on both of your lashes at once, I mean, you can still if you want, but I usually will do one lash at a time because it just doesn't take as long to get tacky. So if you're fiddling around with your lash, then your other one might set before you get to it. I'm gonna finish the rest of my face off camera because this has been a very extended time. We've been complaining about therapy, etc. Well, it's just been me. But you guys will chime in the comments and then it'll become like a little back and forth moment, okay? Anyways, I'll jump back on in uno momento. All right, guys. Well, that was just a ball. Thanks so much for hanging out and chatting with me today. We'll see you next time. All right, guys. Peace out.